Hello again. This is Gary Arzt on the Tobacco Road for CigarChannel.com. I'm sitting here today with Glynn Loope, the Executive Director of Cigar Rights of America. I've said enough. With odious and onerous taxes and smoking bans and legislation against our enjoying ourselves, I'm going to let Glynn tell you what CRA is doing and what you have to do if we're to continue to enjoy cigars. Glenn?
Well, there's little doubt that there has been no time in our history with this industry like the period of 2007 to 2010. In the 400-year history of tobacco, this period will mark the most onerous time that's ever confronted this industry. With smoking bans, with regulation and taxation, it's been no period like it. With that, those of us that are cigar enthusiasts have to organize ourselves, have to be engaged politically, have to be involved in the political process. And through that, Cigar Rights of America is building a national network of cigar enthusiasts to do that. It's basically time to change some elections. It's time to be engaged in the governmental process as never before in the history of this industry. So with that, this CRA as an organization has grown from a 5-city tour to a 50-state organization with retail members in 47 states, building a new political network that the industry has never had before at its disposal. To date, we've been involved in 16 smoking ban fights, 10 tax battles that are on a statewide basis, and in a sundry of public policy matters like FDA regulation of tobacco that is now on the doorsteps of the cigar industry, which many in the industry denied would ever come, and now we're probably within months, if not weeks, from having the first ever federal regulations impacting the cigar industry, which is something companies like the Grey Cliffs and the La Polinas and the Fuentes and all will have to confront in a way that they probably never dreamed of when they began making their products. So with that, we're at a critical time in history, and it just behooves each of us as cigar enthusiasts to be involved in the political process, and hopefully CRA will be able to facilitate that.
Your organization is, for want of a better description, the NRA of the cigar smokers.
That's a very fair assessment. I mean, it took the National Rifle Association 150 years to get 4 million members, and Rome wasn't created overnight. So in that regard, that's a decent analogy, but there's also a lot of others that we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at the organizational capacity of a United States Chamber of Commerce, a National Federation of Independent Business, Americans for Prosperity, a Freedom Works types of organization where you're mobilizing the grassroots for a given industry and a given cause that you feel strongly about.
And yours is a consumer organization. You're the NRA for cigar smokers. Don't you think that the industry, the manufacturers, must have PACs?
Well, what you're driving at is money is the mother's milk of politics.
Okay.
And you would have to search far and wide and very deep to find political giving from the cigar industry in a way that has a meaningful impact in the electoral process. So absolutely, it is time for the cigar industry as a whole to, one, create a federal political action committee. It behooves us to create political action committees in every state in the union, and to start giving money away to candidates that are going to support a political agenda for the cigar industry.
When I first wrote about the CRA before you came on board, when it was mooted by 6-8 manufacturers who came up with a name and understood what they wanted to do, but had, as we would say in commerce, no business plan. And you weren't hired until December of '08. But I wrote in June of '08, I said there's supposed to be 7 million cigar smokers. If you capture 5% of them as members with dues of $30 a year, you have $10 million. And money talks, and it talks nowhere as loud as it talks in politics. And 10 million can make you heard.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it.
Why do you think the cigar smokers, some of them, have been slow at $35? 2 or 3 good cigars, $35. And they get 2 good cigars when they join. Why have they been so slow? And I know the NRA story, and that has ameliorated my anger about.
Well, it always helps to have the Constitution on your side, and an amendment to tout. But frankly, I think a lot of it revolves around the fact that most cigar smokers have not felt enough pain in that regard. If you can still smoke in a home, if you can still smoke on your back porch, you're not going to feel that pain. But there's a lot of places in this country where you're not even allowed to smoke in your local cigar shop. There's not a lot of places there's a lot of places in this country as a growing movement that you can't smoke in a community park. You can't find a place in Central Park in New York City to have a cigar or something of that nature. So as those rights are eroded, as they go away for individuals, they'll start to feel that impact. It's amazing that a tobacco producing state like Louisville, like Kentucky, that you can't go into a cigar shop in Louisville, Kentucky and enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, they have their events on the parking lot.
So you'll when you start to feel that type of pain, then you're more apt to give. What's interesting is our membership is growing fastest in places that are experiencing that pain. Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, California, Texas. Texas is a wonderful analogy. We just did an event with the Texas Cigar Festival. People came out in droves to join for one reason. Their legislature only meets every other year. They know next year the statewide smoking ban is going to be back on the agenda. And they said, we're not going to take it lying down. Therefore, they joined in mass. I think that's a wonderful analogy of how people are reacting to CRA.
Denville, New Jersey. An arresting offense.
Third offense, you can go to jail.
For smoking out of doors. The remarkable Mayor Bloomberg, who wants to take salt out of food. I don't know where he gets his ideas from or his expertise, but he doesn't want smoking out of doors. 417 parks, beaches, athletic facilities, no smoking. Well, we understand him. He's a recidivist cigar smoker, and there's nothing as zealous as somebody who's been there.
Well, that's absolutely right. But Mayor Bloomberg is an analogy. He's an analogy for what is now the mayor of Savannah, who frankly 2 weeks ago rolled out a smoking ban proposal that is worse than anything in New York City.
Yeah, I heard about it.
The mayor of Bloomington, Florida, or the mayor of Dallas, Texas, or one of my favorite on our mayoral wall of shame, Mayor Menino of Boston, who unilaterally banned smoking outdoors after companies like the Palm Steakhouse and the Capitol Grill had invested in outdoor patios to accommodate cigar smokers. After they had made that capital investment to conform with the law, Mayor Menino, through the Boston Board of Health, unilaterally said there's no smoking out of doors and that you can be fined for it. That's the type of an analogy that Bloomberg represents across this country that needs to simply go away at election time. I come to a marvelous moment in the last 12 months. Berkeley County, West Virginia, also through a unilateral action of a Board of Health, wanted to impose a smoking ban. A World War II veteran who had literally stormed the beaches of Normandy showed up on the steps of a rally held by local restaurants and bars and said one simple thing: I do not smoke, but if we don't stop this type of behavior, where will it stop? And I thought you couldn't have scripted it better with a Madison Avenue PR firm, and he spoke from the heart. And I think it's a perfect analogy. It's a distraction. This is a distraction issue to the major issues of the day. It's an easy out. But I come back to one quick program that we just rolled out at CRA, and that's Smoke the Vote. An opportunity to truly impact the electoral process, to put people in office that will support a pro-cigar agenda.
Or at least leave us alone.
Well, and you brought up Mayor Bloomberg. It came as a surprise to me to learn. I knew he won a close election, but I didn't know how close. If cigar smokers had turned out en masse in New York City, Mayor Bloomberg won after dropping $80 million on his campaign. He won by the equivalent of 8 votes per precinct. 8 votes per precinct.
10 smokers would have wiped him out.
Absolutely, absolutely. If in every precinct in New York City, which is 6,011, what we need to do is to start tangibly engaging the cigar smoker in that type of political process, and we'll start to win.
Glenn, I know you have to get to an important event with the Congressional Cigar Association. Tell how cigar smokers beat.
Well, very quickly, my local cigar shop, Milan Tobacconist, will be 100 years old in 2012. It's owned by a third-generation couple, and their local state senator, Brandon Bell, introduced the first ever smoking ban legislation in Virginia in 2006. I was a patron of Milan Tobacconists, and they knew I was a lobbyist and if I would get involved in the process. So that led to creation of the Cigar Association of Virginia. But 2 years later, Senator Bell was challenged in a Republican primary by the local mayor, and that cigar shop mobilized itself, got engaged in the political process as never before. In a June primary, and who votes in June? In a June primary, Milan tobacconists activated their mailing list. When you bought a cigar in that shop, it said vote for Mayor Ralph Smith on June the 18th. When you bought a cigar from them, your bag was stamped with a Ralph Smith for Senate sticker, and they unleashed their mailing list by zip code according to their customer base 48 hours before that election. And out of 8,000 votes cast, Senator Bell introduced that smoking ban bill, lost by 75 votes. Now, out of 8,000 votes cast in a summertime primary, you can't convince me that that one little cigar shop did not have an impact on that election. And I think it's a wonderful analogy for what ought to be happening at cigar shops across the country.
I'm not going to keep you. We'll have more time to talk about CRA because it's important, and you have to get on board with the Cigar Rights of America. For thecigarchannel.com, I'm Gary Arzt on the Tobacco Road. Until next time, keep smoking.